Have you ever imagined a place where the horizon was endless, where all you could see was sand and silence? A forgotten land, lost between the scorching heat and dry desert wind. No skyscrapers gleamed on the horizon, no luxury cars cruised the avenues, and the word wealth was but a distant echo. This place existed, and it was called Dubai. Before becoming a symbol of luxury and power, Dubai was just a small village, almost wiped off the map. A handful of simple houses, tents made of straw and wood, and a people accustomed to living with little, facing hunger, heat, and isolation with unwavering faith. But what makes a city rise from nothing? What transforms a forgotten desert into a metropolis that today sets trends for the entire world? Perhaps the answer lies in the people who once looked at the impossible and decided it was time to challenge fate. Stay with me until the end, because what you discover now may surprise you. Imagine the sound of the wind blowing through the dunes, the sun mercilessly burning the skin, and yet entire families resisted, guided by ancestral traditions, honor, and a faith as firm as the distant mountains. They were the Bedouins, men and women who didn't know the word luxury, but knew the true meaning of courage. Their lives were marked by long journeys where every drop of water was a blessing and every shade a shelter. They didn't have gold, but they possessed something money could never buy: resilience. And it is from this spirit that the essence of Dubai was born. A city that learned above all to survive. Each sunset brought the same challenge: to keep believing even when nothing blossomed. At first, the desert seemed invincible, an immensity that swallowed dreams and hopes. But within those humble tents lay something greater than sand, a vision, a belief that destiny could be rewritten and that one day that desert would be more than a barren landscape. It would be the stage for a human miracle. Today, when we look at the Burj Khalifa touching the sky, the hand-drawn artificial islands, and the lights that transform night into day, it's hard to imagine that it all began there, amid the solitude of the dunes and the modest glow of pearls fished in the Persian Gulf. Back then, Dubai wasn't a dream. It was simply survival. And yet, its first inhabitants already carried in their eyes the reflection of the future, a glow that the desert couldn't extinguish. They didn't know when or how, but they sensed something. Grand was coming, that those sands hid not only the past, but also the promise of a new era. And it was precisely in this silence where no one believed that the most extraordinary movement in modern history began. Because before there was luxury, gold, and skyscrapers, there was a flame, the determination to transform nothing into everything. And that flame remains lit to this day, illuminating the place where everything seemed impossible. Now, I want to take you even deeper into this story, to the moment when the world finally began to see the desert that no one was looking at. And while the wind still blows through the dunes, it's impossible not to wonder, how many times in life have we also faced nothingness, believing there was no way out, and yet decided to carry on? Perhaps that's why Dubai's story resonates so deeply, because it is, at its core, the story of all of us. The story of those who face the impossible and choose to take the first step. If this topic resonates with you, if at any point in this narrative you found yourself reflecting on your own journey, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. I really want to know, what part of this transformation inspires you most? Is it the silence of the desert, the courage of the Bedouins, or the faith of those who believed when no one else did? Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this kind of content. Every comment, every like, every subscription helps keep this flame of stories worth telling alive. When you interact, YouTube understands that this kind of message of faith, resilience, and vision needs to be shared with more people. And that's what motivates me to continue bringing you content like this, full of soul and purpose. So if this journey inspires you, please like and subscribe to the channel right now. This isn't just a simple gesture. It's a way to walk together, to build a community of people who believe that even the desert can bloom. And speaking of blossoming, What follows will show the moment the first seeds of a dream began to sprout amidst the endless sand, because it was there, when the world wasn't yet looking, that Dubai began to transform into the symbol of hope we know today. They were nomads, children of the wind and guardians of the stars. They carried the scent of sand in their clothes and the reflection of infinity in their eyes. The Bedouins were the first to call that desert home, and perhaps they are responsible for something much greater than they imagined. While the modern world had yet to dare to traverse those arid lands, they already understood what it meant to live in balance with what one had, to draw strength from silence, and to find wisdom in scarcity. In a place where a mistake could cost one's life, patience became survival, and faith the daily nourishment of the soul. The Bedouin tribe sought not luxury, but harmony. Each dawn was a new challenge, and yet there was beauty in every detail. The sunrise reflecting on the dunes, the distant sound of camels, the tea boiling in small copper pots in the middle of nowhere. They had no buildings, but they had purpose. They possessed no riches, but they carried within them the greatest of all, a sense of community. If a member of the tribe fell, everyone stopped to lift him up, and this collective mentality, shaped by the desert, would be the seed that would one day germinate into the construction of an entire nation. While many saw only the hostility of the sand, the Bedouins saw a teacher. The desert taught them more than any school. It taught them humility, limits, and respect. It teaches them that control is an illusion, and that only those who accept the rhythm of life can weather the storm without losing their way. Perhaps that's why Dubai grew with such determination. It inherited from its ancestors the mindset of those who never give up, even when everything seems to be against them. The city's transformation didn't begin with machines or oil. It began with a way of thinking. The hidden truth behind the UAE's success lies in the strength of a collective mindset that values perseverance over comfort. The Bedouins didn't wait for opportunities. They forged their own paths. And this behavior shaped generations. The impact of this way of life rippled invisibly but profoundly through the decisions that would shape the region's future. With each tent pitched, there was more than shelter. There was faith in the future. With each caravan that set out into the unknown, there was the certainty that the journey, however arduous, would always be worth it. When we look at Dubai's current splendor, with its imposing buildings and illuminated avenues, it's easy to forget where that courage came from. But a closer look reveals that nothing there is mere ostentation. Behind the luxury lies a story of quiet resilience, discipline, and unwavering values. The success the world sees today was born from the resilience of a people who learned to overcome unhurriedly, step by step into the dunes. And it's curious to think that, even without knowing it, each Bedouin was building the invisible foundation of one of the most impressive civilizations of our time. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding the Bedouins is understanding the spiritual and emotional underpinnings of human transformation itself. They reflect a truth that spans the ages. 2. Build something great. One must first learn to live with the essentials. And it is this wisdom, simple yet powerful, that transformed nothingness into a starting point, the desert into a path, and survival into a destination. It was on the edge of a small port, surrounded by dunes and the calm waters of the Persian Gulf, that Dubai began to awaken from its ancient silence. There was still no oil, no glass towers touching the sky. There were only simple wooden boats gliding over the sea with the same serene rhythm of hope. Men with sun-streaked skin and steady eyes guided these vessels in search of something the desert could not offer: opportunities. There, in the heart of a forgotten place, commerce began to kindle the first lights of what would one day be one of the most admired economies on the planet. The port was small, but the dream was big. Each ship that docked brought not only goods, but also new ideas, cultures, and possibilities. From across the sea came spices from India, fine fabrics from Persia, and gold from the African continent. Dubai became a meeting point between worlds, a refuge for merchants who saw it as a piece of neutrality amid the disputes of the great commercial powers of the time. And, without anyone realizing it, these daily exchanges were shaping the mindset of a people. A mindset that would learn, early on, to see value where others saw only sand. It was at the docks that the first coins began to circulate. Dialogue between different languages was born, and something more powerful than simple transactions emerged: trust. The economy, even in its primitive form, was built on relationships. Every agreement sealed by the sea was also a pact of honor. This commercial ethic would become one of the hidden truths behind the Emirates' success. They understood that true value lies not only in accumulated wealth, but in how it is generated and preserved. Dubai's transformation began there, in the purity of this human exchange. It was the city's first contact with the outside world, and at the same time the first indication of its vocation to connect people, cultures, and opportunities. The impact of this movement was profound. For the first time, the desert saw wealth passing through its hands. It wasn't abundant, but it was real. And more importantly, it awakened something that until then had lain dormant in the sands: the belief that destiny could be changed by those who dared to negotiate with life, without fear of failure. Behind the scenes of this new era, local families began to prosper. Small fishing villages transformed into trading communities. The scent of freshly caught pearls mingled with the aroma of spices brought from afar. Time seemed to flow faster. There was movement, noise, energy, and a sense that something was being born. Dubai, for the first time, was no longer just a dot on the map, but a destination. And without oil or technology, it was building what had always been its greatest asset, an entrepreneurial mindset. But the most fascinating thing is that none of this was planned. It was an organic journey, guided by intuition, necessity, and curiosity. The first traders had no idea they were participating in a historic transformation. For them, it was simply survival, the daily search for sustenance. Yet every decision made at that time, no matter how small, created a domino effect that would change the trajectory of entire generations. It's as if the sea had become a mirror, reflecting not only the present, but the future of an entire civilization. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because understanding how this small maritime trade gave rise to a global powerhouse is to delve into revelations about vision, purpose, and mindset. It's to realize that every great transformation begins silently, almost imperceptibly, and that the secret lies in never underestimating small beginnings. Write in the comments, every journey begins with a first step. It was. When the wind began to change direction, that Dubai's destiny changed as well. Sea routes expanded, global trade gained momentum, and the once silent waters of the Persian Gulf began to fill with voices, flags, and languages from every corner of the world. Suddenly, that small port, which until then had been merely a discreet haven for local fishermen and traders, became a mandatory transit point for ships from India, Africa, and even Europe. The world was arriving in the Gulf, and with it came new opportunities, new challenges, and a transformation that no one could stop. The ships that docked in Dubai brought more than goods. They brought ideas about progress, organization, construction, and power. And it's curious to realize how the true growth of a nation often begins with the invisible exchange of knowledge. Every captain, every merchant, every traveler who set foot on that soil took with them a piece of Arab culture and left something in return. Techniques, languages, dreams. It was a spontaneous fusion between East and West, a kind of silent alliance where curiosity was the most valuable currency. The local Sheikh, a visionary and strategist, understood something many leaders never did. The secret lay not in protecting isolation, but in embracing diversity. While others closed borders, Dubai opened them. And it was in this courageous gesture that the identity that would define the entire country began to take shape. The decision to open the Gulf to the world was more than political. It was a choice of mindset. It was as if the city was saying, "Let the winds of the future come. We are ready to welcome them." With this new phase, the days became more hectic. The port bustled with activity. Voices mingled in dozens of languages. The scent of spices danced in the air, along with the clink of coins and the echo of waves crashing against the hulls of ships. Dubai began to pulse with a different rhythm, the rhythm of the world. Every transaction, every negotiation, every decision made on the shores of the Gulf carried the power to shape the future. And that's when the improbable began to happen. The small village began to dream of becoming a city. Foreign influence also raised questions. Many feared that traditions would be lost, that culture would be diluted amid growing trade. But the Arab people have always masterfully balanced tradition and innovation. While embracing the new, they maintained their ancient soul. Faith remained their foundation. The desert remained their school, and honor their compass. This duality between what changes and what remains is what gave the Emirates their unusual strength. Behind the scenes of this meeting of worlds, something bigger was taking shape. Dubai was beginning to understand that it was not just a dot on the map, but a bridge between civilizations. This revelation would forever change its trajectory. The impact was so profound that within a few years, what was once sand and silence would become a symbol of global connection. The world was discovering the Gulf, but perhaps it didn't imagine that the Gulf was also discovering the world. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because from this encounter between cultures arose the vision that would transform the desert into one of the most prosperous regions on the planet. And the most fascinating thing is that it all began with a simple decision: to open the doors and let the future in. Write in the comments, every transformation begins with a choice. It was as if the desert itself had awakened. A deep sound shattered the silence of the sands in the 1960s, a roar from the depths of the earth. Oil had been found. The black gold, as it was called, appeared at first timidly, then in powerful spurts that seemed to herald the birth of a new era. And indeed, it did. In a few years, what centuries of commerce and courage had failed to achieve began to happen before everyone's eyes. The improbable became possible. The forgotten village that lived off fishing and pearls now possessed one of the most coveted riches on the planet. The impact was immediate. The once untouched desert became the stage for a silent and irreversible revolution. Where tents once stood, schools began to spring up. Where only sand once stood, hospitals, ports, and roads were born, cutting through the void toward the future. It was as if every drop of oil was being converted into infrastructure, education, and technology. But something even more powerful was happening, something invisible to the naked eye, a shift in mindset. For the first time, Dubai wasn't just surviving, it was planning. And this was perhaps the greatest leap forward in its history. Oil brought wealth, but it also brought responsibility. With so much power in his hands, the local sheikh had to make decisions that would define the course of the entire country. Instead of using the money merely for show, he decided to invest in development, education, and building a legacy. It was a choice few would make. And herein lies the hidden truth of this story. Oil was the trigger, but not the true reason for the transformation. What truly changed Dubai was the mindset of those who knew how to transform wealth into purpose. While other countries lost themselves in disputes and waste, the UAE used black gold to fuel a greater dream. They knew oil would eventually run out, so they decided to build something that would never run out. Knowledge, infrastructure, and influence. This was the turning point. What began as a race for energy became a journey for vision. Behind the scenes, local leadership designed the future with almost mathematical precision, a rare blend of faith and strategy. The first buildings began to appear, signs of a new era. Roads stretched across the desert, connecting previously isolated regions. The port expanded, planes began to land, and an unprecedented feeling filled the air, that nothing would ever be the same again. Each new construction was a message to the world. We are ready to be seen. The impact of this decision echoed beyond borders, attracting investors, engineers, and dreamers from every corner of the planet. The hot sand of the Gulf became fertile ground for the impossible. But behind all this prosperity lay a sense of unease. Leaders knew that oil was a finite resource, a temporary gift. And perhaps that's why every step was taken with such urgency and precision. Dubai understood early on that true power lay not in what was extracted from the ground, but in what was built above it. This awareness shaped every decision, every project, every investment. And it is this kind of wisdom that separates fleeting civilizations from eternal ones. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because Dubai's true wealth lies not in the oil that once gushed forth, but in the vision of those who knew how to see beyond abundance. The city learned to transform resources into purpose and purpose into legacy. And it is precisely at this point that the story shifts in tone, from the sound of machines drilling into the ground to the sound of human ambition challenging the impossible. As oil gushed and the world marveled at the new Gulf power, one man looked beyond wealth. Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan saw something few leaders of the time could. True power lay not in money, but in unity. He knew that each isolated emirate was strong in spirit, but fragile in influence. The vast and unforgiving desert had taught that surviving alone was impossible. It was necessary to build together. This vision would be the foundation for the transformation of an entire region. Zayed was different. While other rulers sought to consolidate power within their own borders, he dreamed of something collective, a future where all emirates prospered side by side, without competition, but with a shared purpose. And it was with this mindset that he approached Sheikh Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum, the leader of Dubai, an equally visionary man who understood that progress would come not only from abundant oil, but from the courage to dream of something greater. When these two men met, the fate of the Gulf changed forever. The idea of uniting tribes, languages, and economies seemed impossible. Each emirate had its own culture, history, and even rivalries. Yet Zayed believed that true strength lay in cooperation. With patience and wisdom, he began bringing together leaders, negotiating agreements and building bridges between the past and the future. The conversations took place away from the cameras, in discreet meetings filled with tension and hope. Behind the scenes, an alliance was being forged that was not just political but emotional, a union of principles, values, and faith. It was in 1971 that the dream became reality. 7 emirates, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Ajman, Al Quwain, Fujairah, and later Ras Al Khaimah, united to form a single nation. The United Arab Emirates. It was an act of courage and vision. At that moment, something unprecedented was happening in the Arab world. Leaders who might have retreated into their own thrones decided to relinquish some of their power in the name of something much greater. The decision to unite was, above all, a gesture of faith in the collective, in the idea that shared prosperity would be the most lasting legacy. This union was the turning point that transformed the region's destiny. Under Sheikh Zayed's leadership, Abu Dhabi became the political and financial heart of the new federation, while Dubai, under Sheikh Rashid, assumed the role of economic and international showcase. It was a near-perfect balance, strength and ambition walking hand in hand. The impact of this partnership was so profound that in just a few decades, the Emirates went from being a mere territorial union to a global symbol of modernity, stability, and innovation. But the secret behind this achievement goes far beyond geographic borders. What truly made the UAE thrive was the mindset of its leaders, a mindset based on respect, vision, and purpose. Sheikh Zayed used to say, "True wealth is not in oil, but in the people who use it wisely." This phrase would become the invisible motto of the entire nation. He invested in education, health, and human development, planting the seeds of sustainable progress. Instead of focusing on immediate profits, he thought of future generations. And this decision, simple, yet profound, has shaped the country's identity to this day. Behind the scenes of this journey lies a powerful truth. Unity did not erase differences, it transformed them into strength. Each emirate maintained its essence, but shared a common direction. It was this harmony between diversity and purpose that made the world look upon the Emirates with admiration. A young nation, but with an ancient soul. Modern, yet deeply spiritual. Wealthy, yet guided by humility. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, Because to understand Sheikh Zayed is to understand the soul of the United Arab Emirates. It's to realize that every great transformation begins with a leadership decision, and that true power lies not in dominating, but in inspiring. It was at this point in history that the impossible began to take shape. Oil was no longer just a source of wealth. It was the fuel for unprecedented ambition. Dubai, now united with its sister Emirates, began to look to the horizon with a question that would change everything. How far can we go? And the answer, it seemed, had no limit. The desert, which for centuries had been a symbol of scarcity, became the fertile ground for the creation of one of the most futuristic landscapes on the planet. It was the dawn of the age of the skyscraper, the moment when man decided to defy gravity and rewrite the very notion of greatness. The sky, once seen as a frontier, became the next step. Construction began to grow at an astonishing rate, transforming the city into a veritable laboratory of engineering and daring. And at the heart of this movement was the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, a structure that seems to touch infinity. More than a work of architecture, it became a manifesto. Every floor, every piece of steel, every meter of height represents the mindset of a people who learned, over the centuries, never to accept the impossible as an answer. The visual impact of this transformation was only superficial. What truly impressed was the philosophy behind the construction. Dubai didn't just want to build buildings, it wanted to build an identity. Each tower told a story. Each artificial island symbolized the victory of the human mind over the limits of nature. The city began to grow upward, sideways, and in a way inward, because deep down, what Dubai was building wasn't just a new landscape, but a new global mindset. There was something almost spiritual about this quest for heights. The engineers, architects and workers who took turns under the scorching sun, saw their tasks not just as jobs, but as part of a collective mission. With each new project, Dubai proved to the world that the desert was not an obstacle, but a blank canvas. A space where the boldest dreams could be drawn without fear. And this courage, this willingness to transform the improbable into reality, became a trademark. Behind the scenes, however, there was much more than glamour. Building this new city required discipline, sacrifice, and unwavering faith. Men from all over the world worked side by side, united by a promise of a future. It was the epitome of globalization, even before the word became fashionable. While the world saw only luxury and records, Dubai lived a silent journey of collective overcoming, an effort that blended sweat, strategy, and belief in purpose. The Burj Khalifa, when it finally opened, symbolized not only the conquest of a city, but that of an entire idea. The top of that tower seemed to shout to the world that a nation's true wealth is measured not by what it has, but by what it dares to build. This was the message that echoed from the desert to the entire planet, that limits exist only until someone decides to surpass them. But curiously, while everyone looked up, Dubai's essence remained rooted in what had sustained it from the beginning: the Bedouin mentality, the ancestral resilience, the faith that endures even when everything seems to be falling apart. It was this combination of tradition and modernity, of past and future, that made the city unique. The contrast between the silence of the sands and the shine of the glass mirrors told a story of human transformation, of purpose and vision. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because the age of the skyscraper was not just a phase of urban growth, it was a leap of collective consciousness, a reminder that every empire begins within the mind before rising upon the earth. Suddenly, the entire world began to look at a point on the map that had previously seemed irrelevant. That forgotten village, surrounded by dunes and silence, now became the epicenter of a new era. Dubai was no longer just a city, it was an idea, a concept that defied the laws of logic, geography, and even time. In just a few decades, what was once a desert became the beating heart of luxury, innovation, and modernity. Planes, tourists, business people, and curious onlookers from every corner of the planet began to land there, drawn by the same mystery. How could a place that had nothing become a symbol of everything? The answer, however, goes far beyond buildings, shopping malls, and records. Because Although Dubai shines with lights that never go out, its essence still resides in the silence of the desert. Behind the mirrored glass and impeccable avenues, there is something that money could not build: the Bedouin soul. The faith that moved their ancestors still lives on in their daily prayers. The hard work of those who built with their own hands remains present in every detail. The pride of having transformed the impossible into reality is in every gesture, every look, every decision. The curious thing is that, even surrounded by technology and luxury, Dubai has never lost its connection to its origins, and perhaps this is the secret of its strength. While the world constantly tries to erase the past in the name of progress, the Emirates have learned to do the opposite: preserve what is essential and use it as a compass for the future. This is the hidden truth that few realize. Dubai's modernity was not born from the rejection of traditions, but from the harmony between the old and the new. This fusion is what gives the city its identity. It does not imitate the West. It creates its own concept of the future, a future with a soul. The impact of this transformation extends far beyond physical borders. Dubai has become a mirror to the world, a living metaphor for the power of vision and discipline. The decisions made there demonstrate that a place's destiny is determined not by its resources, but by the mindset of those who govern and build it. A mindset of abundance, focus, and purpose is what has allowed a small patch of desert to compete with the planet's largest metropolises. Behind this success lie universal lessons about leadership, courage, and purpose. But what's most impressive is the invisible balance that underpins it all. Between gold and sand, between ambition and faith, there's a fine line Dubai has learned not to cross. It's as if the city knows that luxury loses its meaning without purpose, and that progress loses its way without values. Therefore, while the world chases trends, Dubai remains guided by principles. And it's this coherence between what it believes and what it builds that has made it a global benchmark. Dubai's new identity is a powerful reminder that true transformation doesn't happen when you change what you have, but when you change who you are. The city stopped being a village because it decided to think like an empire, and this shift in mindset is what has kept it steadfast in the face of every challenge. Nothing there was left to chance. Everything was planned, thought out, dreamed of, and above all executed with unwavering faith. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding this new identity is understanding the soul of a civilization that discovered how to transform scarcity into abundance and dreams into destiny. It's seeing behind the shiny facades the humanity that gave meaning to it all. Behind every tower reaching for the sky and every road cutting through the desert, there is something that cannot be measured by numbers or seen with the naked eye. These are the invisible pillars that support everything Dubai has become, pillars that rise not of concrete, but of conviction. While the West saw only wealth, luxury, and extravagance, the heart of the Emirates beat for something deeper: faith, discipline, and vision. Three silent but powerful forces that shaped a people and transformed an arid land into the stage for one of the greatest human revolutions of our time. Faith is the first and most solid of these pillars. Since the times of the Bedouin tribes, it has always been the foundation of existence. Amidst the vastness of the desert, where the wind alters the path and the sand erases footprints, faith was the only compass. It guided decisions, sustained families, and fueled hope. To this day, this connection with the divine is present in every aspect of life in the Emirates, not as a symbol of apparent religiosity, but as a living daily practice that teaches humility even in the face of greatness. It is the constant reminder that human beings are merely guardians of what they build, not absolute owners. This faith does not paralyze, it drives. It gives rise to every decision born of a greater purpose. The second pillar is discipline. And here lies one of the hidden truths behind the UAE's success. Nothing built there happened by chance or luck. Everything was the result of planning, patience, and an almost military-like ethic in execution. In a place where extreme heat and adverse conditions could be excuses for failure, They chose to transform discomfort into training. Discipline shaped habits, created systems, and generated consistent results. It's what keeps the momentum going when the excitement fades, what sustains focus when distractions appear. In Dubai, discipline isn't seen as rigidity, but as freedom, the freedom to build the future with one's own hands. And then comes vision, the third pillar, perhaps the most fascinating of all. Having vision is seeing what doesn't yet exist and acting as if it already exists. This is how the UAE's leaders managed to turn sand into opportunity. They saw where others saw only desert, a chance to create a new center of the world. This mindset of anticipating the future, of thinking beyond the present generation, is what has made Dubai a global example of innovation. Every project, every renovation, every long-term decision is born from this ability to look beyond the present. It's a powerful lesson in perspective and the courage to dream without fear of ridicule. The balance between these three pillars, faith, discipline, and vision, is what makes Dubai unique. Take away one of them, and everything would crumble. Faith gives meaning. Discipline gives form. Vision gives direction. That's why even in the face of global crises, the city continues to grow, reinvent itself, and defy predictions. Because its spiritual structure is more solid than any physical foundation. There's something profoundly human and inspiring about this model, a truth that transcends borders and religions, that the most lasting progress is that built from the inside out. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding these pillars is understanding the invisible code that governs not just a city, but any journey of transformation. It's realizing that the secret lies not only in building great works, but in becoming great on the inside before building anything on the outside. Today, when you look at Dubai's skyline, you don't just see buildings, you see a living timeline, a portrait of the future happening now. The city doesn't wait for tomorrow to arrive, it anticipates it. What was once sand and silence is now a laboratory of ideas, a showcase of what humanity is capable of building when it combines technology and purpose. Flying cars crossing the sky, robots patrolling streets, artificial intelligence managing public services, clean energy powering skyscrapers. All this is no longer science fiction. It's the new routine of a place that has decided to transform utopia into habit. What's most impressive is that this pursuit of the future isn't driven solely by ambition. There's a clear intention behind every decision. Dubai understands that progress isn't just about what's built, but about the impact it has on future generations. Therefore, while investing in cutting-edge technology, it also invests in sustainability and quality of life. The city that once defied the desert now defies time itself, and proves that it's possible to evolve without destruction, to grow without losing its essence. Behind the scenes of this transformation lies something even more powerful. The mindset of those who believe the future is a daily choice. This is the hidden truth behind the UAE's success. They don't wait for fate to favor them, they design it. Every street, every building, every public policy bears the mark of a strategic decision, a vision that isn't content with good enough. It's this combination of faith in purpose and precision in execution that keeps the city always one step ahead of the rest of the world. Dubai's journey is a lesson in the power of decisions, because when you look closely, it all began with a simple choice, not to accept the impossible. And this choice continues to be repeated every day in each new idea that takes shape. It's a chain of courage that spans generations, from the Bedouins who braved the heat and scarcity to the engineers who today build floating cities. This continuity between past and future is what makes Dubai so unique. There, tradition and innovation don't compete, they complement each other. The impact of this thinking extends far beyond Arab borders. It inspires countries, companies, and individuals to rethink their relationship with time and purpose. It shows that the future doesn't belong to the richest, but to the most visionary, that the secret isn't rushing, but knowing where to go. And perhaps this is the greatest lesson Dubai offers the world, that the future isn't discovered, it's built, with discipline, imagination, and the courage to challenge one's own limits. Looking at all this, it's clear that the desert wasn't the obstacle. It was the testing ground. The heat that once burned now generates solar energy. The sand that once served as a barrier now becomes the foundation for the greatest buildings ever built. Limitation has become inspiration. It's a reminder that the impossible only exists until someone decides to face it with vision and purpose. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because what Dubai is doing today isn't just about technology, it's about consciousness. It's about the transformation of a country that has learned to align progress with purpose, proving that true advancement lies not in machines, but in the mindset of those who create them. If you've made it this far, you may have felt the same way I do when I talk about Dubai, that mix of awe and inspiration, as if the history of an entire city reminds us of something that lives within us. Because in the end, it's not just about buildings, wealth, or technology. It's about vision, purpose, and the courage to begin even when everything around you seems empty. If this content made you reflect, leave a like. It's a simple way for me to understand that this type of message resonates with you, and to continue bringing you stories that inspire and transform. And let me know in the comments. Right. I'm with you until the end, so I know you came this far with me. Oh, and before you leave, there's a video here that complements this topic. It's like the next chapter in this journey. Click and stay with me there, because what follows will show you that every great transformation starts in the same place, from the inside out.